In the previous video, we introduced a formula for our equation, which is called the point-slope form. And the point-slope form, this formula, literally comes from the slope formula. We just moved the denominator, multiply both sides by the denominator, and so we can get rid of the denominator. And again, since usually after we plug in the number for x1 and y1, we will not have x and y, so we don't have to distinguish them. So we just use, instead of using x2, y2, and we can just get rid of the subscripts. So this is the slope intercept form. So in this video, we're going to introduce a new form, which is called the, the previous one is called a point slope form. So now we're going to introduce the slope intercept form. And as you can see, why we call this form a point slope form, because we have a point given, and we also have slope given. So we could plug in the slope directly, and we could plug in the point x1 and y1 of the point into the equation. So that's why we call this a point slope form. So now let's look at, so this is the point slope form, and I copied that answer from the previous example. And again, we can obtain this answer from plugging the numbers. Just the slope m is m1, and y1 is 2, and then x2 is 1. So x1 and y1 here is a given point. So this is the line, the equation of the line that goes through the point 1 and 2, and with the slope 1/2. So now if we do some algebraic work, again, the equations we've seen before, they look like something times x plus something. So how do we turn this format into that format? So first of all, if we have parentheses, we can always get rid of them. So we can distribute 1/2 to both of them inside. So we got a 1/2 x minus 1/2. Now, since we have -2 and -1/2, these numbers can be combined. So, and also, if you want to get equation in this format, y is by itself. So we want to get rid of that -2 by adding a 2. They cancel each other. We have y by itself. And here, when we add these two, we have to do the addition, turn 2 to 2/1 and get the common denominator. So that gives us -1/2 plus 4/2. And then we can keep the common denominator 2 and add the numerators, which is -1 plus 4, and that gives us 3. So this is how I got 3/2, which we talked about how we add fractions before. So when we look at this format, and notice that it's exact the format we've seen before, except we have fractions. So y is by itself, and this number 1/2, notice it's exactly the same as the slope. And the reason is, after we plug into the point slope form, this 1/2 is going to be in front of x's, and after we distribute it will stay in front of x. So now this number here we pretty much just carry down, and that is exactly the slope. So this number 1/2 is our slope. And there's another number plus 3/2, which is not given anywhere in the problem. So that's the point, that's the slope. So this number 3/2, we do have a name for that. It's called y-intercept. And I'll explain why this is called a y-intercept. And so this format, notice that in this equation, we have y by itself. So y is by itself. And the other side, we have slope times x plus a y-intercept. So this formula tells us the slope directly, and the y-intercept, usually we use the letter b to denote the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is b and 3/2. Okay, so what is a y-intercept? And if we go back to the topic we had before when we graph lines. So this is a line, and if we want to graph the line, we need to pick a few points. So if I pick in this line, if I pick 0 for x, plug in 0 for x, now we will get 1/2 times 0, which is 0, plus 3/2, that's going to give us 3/2. So we're going to get a first pair, which is 0, 3/2. So 0, 3/2. Let's just say that this is where the point is. And of course, we can pick another number for x. Let's say I can pick a 1 this time. So if I pick a 1 for x, let me replace that with 1. I'm going to get a 1/2 plus 3/2. That gives us 4/2. That's equal to 2. So I'm going to get another order pair, which is 1, 2. So I'm going to put 1, that's 1 here, 2 a little bit up here. So I'm going to have 2 points, and I can join them to and extend in both directions. So I got the line. And this line is y equal to 1/2 x plus 3/2, which I just got right here. And in if you look at the blue line, it intersects with the y-axis, the vertical line. And the intersection point right here, and this point right here, we call the y coordinate, because this is a point on the y-axis, so the x coordinate is always going to be 0, but the y coordinate is going to be 3/2, and that's the number we call y-intercept. And apparently why we call it y-intercept, because it intersects with the y-axis. And similarly, this blue line also intersects with the x-axis. So on the x-axis, we know the y-coordinate is going to be 0. X-coordinate is a number that we have to solve for. You just have to replace y with 0 in the equation and solve for x. And here, we're not going to focus on x-intercept, but this number here similarly is called the x-intercept. Okay, so our focus here is the y-intercept, and so what is y-intercept? It's the y-coordinate of the intersection point of the line with the y-axis. So graphically, it's just this point right here. So with the y coordinate. Okay, so this format compared to the original format, if you look at this format, let's compare these two here. So this is the new format after we got rid of the parentheses, combined like terms. This is the original format. And this looks a little bit easier, maybe. And the good thing about this one is, this format is, it tells us the slope, which is 1/2, and the y-intercept, which is 3/2 immediately. So that's why we named this format slope-intercept form. And again, this is why we call it slope-intercept form, because m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. And these two answers, they represent the same line. They just are different formats. Again, this format is called a point-and-slope form because this is the slope here, and these two numbers together make the point. So we call it a point-and-slope form. But this format is called a slope-intercept form because 1/2 is the slope, 3/2 is the y-intercept. So if you're given any equation, for example, if I have y equals negative 5x plus 7, and when you look at this, that's exactly the slope-intercept form. And the number in front of x is going to be our slope. And the other number without x is going to be our y-intercept. So if we are given a slope-intercept form, we can tell what the slope is and what the y-intercept is immediately.